Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And today, I should really say, for the most part, am going to be talking about my experience at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival during April 13th to the 27th here in Minneapolis at the Main Theater. And I will be sharing my best and worst movies that I saw at the fest over those 2 weeks. Dylan, you were able to join me for one of them.
I was.
So that was fun. And that one did make my best of list. So we can both talk about that movie a little bit.
I'll be taking copious notes on the other movies that you talk about.
Yes, you should be, because these are all international movies and they should be getting wider releases or finding their way onto streaming in the next few months, I would think. So, with that said, I think I can dive right into my best of MSPIFF.
Spiff.
Yes, exactly. Spiff, as we like to call it. Last year, I saw fewer movies, but I had more movies that I loved. This year was much more hit and miss for me. I had one 4-star movie and 4 3.5s. So those 5 made my best of list. And so I'll just kind of start at the bottom. Number 5 for me was a movie called Blackberry, directed by Matt Johnson, which is about the company BlackBerry and their rise and fall. And it's a comedy, sort of in line with something like The Social Network or Wolf of Wall Street, those types of, or like the HBO series Silicon Valley, kind of the starting a company and then things eventually go wrong. And it's got a fun cast. It's got Jay Baruchel.
Love Jay Baruchel.
Mike Lazaridis, I think is how you pronounce his name. Kind of one of the co-founders of BlackBerry. Glenn Howerton plays Jim Balsillie. This sort of sales marketing exec who kind of works his way into the company and is just a ferocious pit bull of a sales guy. Like, he's not on the tech side at all. And it, like, you can tell they kind of needed him, but man, he steals the show. Glenn Howerton, who everybody would know as Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, is phenomenal. This movie's really funny, really interesting. It doesn't really get into any of their lives outside of The Office, which sort of limited its ceiling for me a little bit. It didn't stick with me as much as something like Moneyball or The Social Network. But it's very, very entertaining. Probably the most fun movie I saw at the film festival, and easily the one with the widest appeal.
Okay. Yeah, I want to get to that one.
Yeah.
Just for Jay Baruchel's sake.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Glenn Howerton is amazing. Number 4 for me was the one that we saw together, the first one I saw of the film fest, which is Showing Up, the new movie from Kelly Reichardt, about an artist on the verge of a career-changing exhibition who navigates family, friends, and colleagues in the lead up to her show and finds that the chaos of life becomes the inspiration for more great art. We did an episode on this, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We did. So you can go check out our full review there. We both enjoyed it. It's a good movie. It's a Kelly Reichardt movie, and those generally aren't for everyone. But if you're a fan of Kelly Reichardt, I definitely recommend checking this out. And just of kind of indie comedy dramas in general.
Yeah, for sure.
And my third favorite of the fest is a French movie called Other People's Children.
Oh, okay.
And we can thank the weather for why I even saw this. I bought tickets to these movies a while back, like a month or so before the fest. And it was on a Monday after work. And I didn't really think about the fact that that's when my golf league is. and it was the first
Yes.
week of Golf League, and I didn't want to miss that.
Mm,
But the weather, so I was just going to not go. I thought I'm seeing enough movies, I can just skip one and go golfing.
yep.
But the weather was awful. Nobody went golfing, so I went to see Other People's Children instead. And I've really never seen a movie that has this type of focus about a
Mm,
woman in her, I'm going to guess like upper 30s, who is in a relationship with a man who's a little older than her, and he has a 4-year-old daughter, and she becomes very involved with that family and very attached to the daughter, while at the same time she's learned that if she wants to have a child of her own, she's got months basically to
okay.
kind of make this happen. And it becomes just about her becoming attached and sort of part of this family that isn't hers,
Mm,
and how she's still, no matter what she does, always kind of feeling slightly like an outsider.
interesting.
There are just enough things that keep, I mean, the ex-wife and the daughter's mom is around, but there are enough things that happen that kind of keep her around maybe a little more than she had planned to be, and
Mm,
things with the grandparents where they're always going off to those places, and she's just never quite feels like she's completely part of this family, even though her and the guy she's dating both say they love each other. They've been together for a while.
hmm.
And it's just a really, really touching and interesting and smart movie. This would be higher and probably number one if it didn't have this epilogue scene that I strongly disliked.
Ah, you did mention that. Yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
the epilogue. Really, you would have cut
It
that completely.
yes, I just yeah, because it and so I don't want to say that it like doesn't stick the landing, because the ending before the epilogue is very good. And then we just get this title card epilogue and a little like 5-minute scene kind of down the road. And just, in my opinion, totally unnecessary. Kind of shifts the focus or the point of the movie into a place that's far less unique for me.
Mm.
Became kind of, it's almost a little hackneyed the way that that last
Ooh,
scene
hackney,
goes.
you say.
And I don't know. I mean, it's a movie I'll definitely watch again and recommend to a lot of people. I'm sure there are people who that epilogue scene will work for.
Mm.
I was not one of them, so it held it back a little bit. But there's a lot in this movie that I just loved. And again, that was Other People's Children, a French movie from that came out in France last year and should be available soon in the U.S. I would think.
Came out in France, you say?
The French movie came out in France.
Yeah.
They don't do that a lot, but this one made the cut.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Before
My
you get to
second
your two favorites, did you want to sprinkle in some least favorites?
I was gonna get to those at the end,
Okay.
but yeah, or do we want to end on a? I don't know. Let's just go through the favorites, and then we'll get to the 2 or 3 that were disappointments to me.
All right. I just wanted to throw a curveball. I'm just,
Yeah.
you're
No,
carrying
it
this whole episode, so I just wanted to kind of,
sure.
spice things up. But go on. All right. Number two.
My second favorite of the fest is a movie called Huria, directed by
Ooh.
Mania Medor, which is an Algerian movie
Ooh.
starring Lena Kodri. This is the third movie I've seen her in now. You would recognize her. She plays the love interest of Timothée Chalamet's character in The French Dispatch.
Okay. Well, how do you spell Huria?
Houria. And this is
Okay.
about a young woman who is very passionate and talented at ballet.
Mm.
And she has an incident where she is attacked and injured. And it's very
Mm.
traumatic. And she gets kind of placed in this trauma therapy session along with her physical therapy, where she meets a lot of women who have experienced similar things. And after she's attacked, Huria, I mean, she never like announces it or anything, but she doesn't speak after that.
Mm.
She just won't talk. And she meets some other women who have in this group who have also kind of done the same thing and gone through some horrible things. There are political elements in this movie that I didn't fully grasp If I had a better understanding of kind of the more recent, like last decade or so, or 20 years, kind of modern politics of Algeria, I might have liked this even more.
Mm.
Because it's definitely made, they're not spoon feeding it to us. It's an Algerian movie made for an Algerian audience, which is
Yeah.
fine. I'm not asking them to do more. It did make
Hmm.
me curious, and I do want to do some reading about kind of what's going on over there.
Yeah.
But so there are some things that just kind of made me go, I'm not sure exactly what this is supposed to mean or kind of be a metaphor for. But it turns out to be this really beautiful movie about healing and kind of finding power in the collective.
Cool.
And yeah, it's a really good movie. Lena Kudry is phenomenal. This was probably my favorite performance of any movie I saw at the film festival.
Wow. Okay.
And she has another movie that came out a few years ago by the same director called Papicha,
Okay.
which I've wanted to watch for a while, so I'm going to try to get to that pretty soon. That takes place in Algiers in 1997. So and there are some political angles there as well, so it might be interesting to go back and see a little bit more about what was going on in the 90s in this area, and maybe that'll help me understand a little bit more about Huria.
Cool. All right. Huria.
Yeah. And my favorite, the only movie that got to 4 stars for me at the fest, is a Spanish movie called The Beasts, which is
Mm.
based on a true story. And it's about this French couple that in their retirement moves to this beautiful village in the mountains in northern Spain.
Okay.
And they become part of this. There's sort of like a co-op, or like whoever owns land in this area kind of gets to vote on big picture things that can affect everybody. And there's about
Okay.
9 of them. And there's this windmill company from like Norway or something that wants to buy out all the farmland in the area and put in windmills. And
Ooh.
the poorer families who have been there for generations are very excited about the prospect of selling their farms, cashing out on this windmill, this land sale, and just doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
The main couple has no such financial troubles. They're there because he visited there a while ago and just thought it was a beautiful place and decided this is where I want to retire. So they have like kind of a little tomato garden. They sell stuff. They still make a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of going around and just volunteering their time to fix up some of the older houses around the village.
Yeah.
So they're kind of ingratiating themselves into the lives of all these people in seemingly a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But they vote against selling to the windmill company. And because they vote against it, nobody can sell because the company wants all the land. They need all that space. So this feud begins between the man from the French couple and these 2 brothers who live next door who do not like him at all. And I read that this is based on a true story. It's pretty long. It's 137 minutes. It is tense and thrilling all the way through. And it's also one of those movies that kind of becomes a different movie in the last like half hour. And
Ooh.
usually when that happens, when I'm not expecting that, that can really bother me sometimes. I think of a movie like Waves.
Yeah. Yeah.
This, however, the performances are so strong and it's done in a way that I was still just gripped the entire way. So I thought that was really impressive, where it did a thing that usually is kind of a deal breaker for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for this one, it really, really worked. This was easily my favorite movie of the entire festival, which is called The Beasts, directed by
This
Rodrigo Sorogoyen.
sounds right up my alley. I haven't
Yeah,
heard
I
of
think
it.
you'd really love it. I'm not sure when this is. Um, see if I can find like a US release.
The poster is dark.
Yeah.
It makes it look like a horror movie.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Interesting.
I'm not sure when this is going to be coming out in the US or if it already kind of was for a
Yeah.
small theatrical release.
Yeah, it
But
says The Beast 2022 on IMDb. So I'm
yeah,
like,
that's when it came out, like in Europe. I'm not sure
yeah.
when it's supposed to. Oh, here we go. Release date on Rotten Tomatoes, theaters July 28th, 2023, limited release, which
Okay.
probably means like New York, LA. But after that, I would think. I mean, this has 30 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, an average score of 8.7 out of 10, 100%
Hmm.
positive so far. This movie is really good, and I'd definitely watch it again. So highly, highly recommend The Beast.
All right.
So
Sweet.
now we can change gears here and dive into, I don't know what it's called, worst of the fest
Yeah,
or most
call it
disappointing,
worst. Nope, worst.
but best and worst go together. So that's what we're going with. There were three movies that I found disappointing.
All right.
The first one, because it was my most anticipated, was a movie called Burning Days,
Yes,
a
you told me
Turkish
about
movie
that.
from last year about a new prosecutor who comes into town, and there's a lawsuit going on with pulling out too much groundwater and creating sinkholes, which is like a very real problem in Turkey. And it just didn't. I mean, I can handle a slow burn. This one too slow for me, even. And it's kind of
Glacial.
one of those deals where it sort of sets up these expectations and then kind of ends up being about other things.
Mm,
And it ends up being about like kind of the political machinations and like sabotage that goes on. And I thought the ending, not like the final scene, but sort of what happens in the sort of climactic moment to like kick off the ending was very predictable. And it was one of those things that they sort of concealed from you for like half the movie.
mm.
Adam and I saw this one together, and both of us were a little disappointed. So those Burning Days, not a big fan of. And then another one that I saw with Adam, and he loved this, and this was the winner of the Audience Choice Award at the film festival, and that
Okay.
is called Rice Boy Sleeps, which is a South Korean mother and son struggle with their new life in 1990s Canada and the growing rift between them.
Hmm.
And it's, I don't know, it just all felt kind of box checking immigrant story kind of stuff to me. And there are several scenes in the middle that I just thought didn't need to be there at all.
Okay.
The beginning and the end, I think, are very well done. But by the time we got to the end, I was just kind of checked out.
Okay.
The middle section of the movie just really kind of lost it for me. But I think I was the only person in the theater who didn't like this movie. So take that for what you will.
Dylan
This
loved
is
it.
why I struggle to just ever tell somebody to not watch something,
Hmm.
because a lot of people love this movie. I don't. That's how I felt about it, but enough people liked it where I'm not going to tell anybody to not check it out. I mean, it won the audience award, which should tell you something about how people were responding to it. Again, that
Hmm.
was Rice Boy Sleeps. And then another big disappointment for me was a comedy from Canada called I Like Movies, which is about a socially inept 17-year-old cinephile, Lawrence Queller, gets a job at a video store where he forms a complicated friendship with his older female manager.
Okay.
And it starts off pretty funny, but man, the main character is really unlikable, and kind of I didn't buy the growth in this movie. It felt really unearned. Like they just
Mm.
kind of got to the end of the movie and said like he's changed now. And I was like,
He's a good guy now.
has he? It didn't really feel earned to me. And it just
Mm.
gets it just becomes like more and more of a cliche as you go along.
Oh God.
The
Okay.
first like 20, 30 minutes, I was kind of all about it, but then it just sort of ran out of steam for me. The only movie at the fest that I gave a 2 to.
Oh, it's pretty low.
So not a fan of that one, but there you have it. My best and worst of the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival.
All right, I'll try to get to more of them next year with you because some of those do sound
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, especially look out for, I mean, all the 5 that I mentioned. I mean, I would recommend Blackberry to basically anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Showing Up you've already seen. Huria and Other People's Children are, I think, just very touching foreign movies with really good lead performances. And yeah, The Beasts, I think you'd really love that. So
Yeah, that sounds good.
look out for those.
All right. Well, awesome. Thanks for putting that together.
Yeah,
Is it your turn to put a wrap on the show?
it is.
All right. Take it away.
Waking up and having a project to work on is one of life's great pleasures.